welcome to the MVP Show. Today we're chatting with Aaron Back, a senior Dynamics 365 consultant at ACE Microtechnology. He currently assists customers in maximizing Dynamics 365 Power Platform, Power Automate, Power BI, and Power Apps. He is currently an advisory board member of Dynamics 365 and CRM and Power BI user groups in his region, which is Ohio, where he also is a chapter lead of CRM UG. Aside from this, he can't take his hands off Power Automate, his favorite product of right now. Full show notes can be found at nz365guy.com/175. Now let's get on with the show. Hello, Aaron. Welcome to the MVP Show.
Thank you, Mark. Glad to be here.
Good to have you on air and learn really about your journey in becoming an MVP. What's it been like?
Actually, it's been a long journey, to say the least. I actually started off with just hands-on being an admin by almost being voluntold that you're now an admin. Add this to your hat of things to do, amongst the other multiple hats to wear. So that journey started back in the mid 2000s. I started working actually on the Dynamics GP side, and then the company I was with took on Dynamics CRM back then, as it was known, and that's when I was handed that extra hat of responsibility. And so from then on, it's been just hands-on learning experience, along with certification courses and exams, and just, nose to the grindstone, so to speak, of learning along the way and learning from other experts. That's really helped.
It's good. It's good. How much does your GP Worlds and your other Dynamics suite of products, Power Platform, those type of things cross over? Do you see a lot of integrations happening?
Yeah, we do. With the similar type, modules and or entities between the two, specifically around, orders, invoices, products, things like that. We'll see some integration come along every now and then. Some folks, have other legacy ERP systems or that they want to keep unique and separate. Some people like the integration. It just depends on the business need, but that's typically where I see some integration happening.
So tell us a bit about where you're from. Where do you hail from in the world, and what's that place famous for?
Sure. So I'm actually from Ohio, in the United States. I'm just north of Cincinnati. Major cities in Ohio that most people know are Cincinnati, Columbus, Cleveland, or Toledo regions. But famously or infamously, the Cincinnati region is known for the Cincinnati style chili. And it's usually a taste preference. I'll say that. My family seems to like it, but it's not your traditional hearty, thick chili that you would may have seen in many different parts of the U.S. or the world. But yeah, that's what we're known for. But also the Cincinnati Reds, Cincinnati Bengals, hail from there. But as far as where I'm located, just not a very large city, but family-oriented city. A lot of people know one another, so that's great with our school environments and where my kids go to school and our participation in the community.
Nice. So there's obviously a backstory to that chili. What is it? As in, why is it so different?
Well, typically it's served over top of pasta, like spaghetti, with heaping piles of shredded cheddar cheese on top. And you can get spicier infusion of that with jalapenos, or it's served on hot dogs with like a chili dog style. So that's and there's the two competing brands of Gold Star chili and Skyline chili. Very similar in sort of texture, but if from people around here could tell the difference between the two from flavor. So
Okay. Interesting. Any major attraction in the state?
For me personally, I like to, when it's the weather's nice, I like to go hiking. So nearby to me, there's a place called Caesar's Creek Lake. It's kind of an oxymoron there with a creek and lake next to each other, but started off as a creek at some point in time, and now it's actually an attraction spot for boaters, fisher folks that want to go out and catch fish on a big lake. But there's a lot of hiking trails around there that I like to hit in good weather, and I'll take the kids out there with me, and we'll just go hiking. And it's kind of a disconnect time to get out there in nature for quietness and you know, turn off devices and just turn off the buzz and noise of everyday digital life, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah. It's something I've been reading more and more about lately, is and being able to switch off and detach from that total digital buzz that's always happening.
Exactly. Yeah, because your mind tends to go a mile a minute with the constant feed from all of the social media and websites, that it's good to kind of detach from that and just get into the get into your own, self with things and understand where you need to reflect, and then that helps me when it's quiet, and reduce the noise.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I've been reading a book called Deep Work. I don't know if you've ever heard of it, by Carl Newport. And yeah, quite incredible, really, as in just looking into people's lives in our modern era that have done amazing things. And one of their, if you like, superpowers or skills is the ability to this concept of deep work, which involves, of course, moving away from shallow work or shallow activities, of which, social media and email and the constant interruptions of our lives are part of that. And so, yeah, it's quite challenging book for me, because I've always been very active in those type of mediums and stuff, and it's making me rethink, what's important.
Yeah, same here. And I think over the years, we've just, as a society, have accumulated this extra, I don't want to say burden, but an extra bandwidth. We feel like we're being stretched in all places with the constant, uh, you know, insurgent of these social media apps and platforms across there, that instead of maybe devoting more time to one versus the other, now it's even less and less time devoted to each one, and that constant snippets, attention span of folks has reduced dramatically over the years. So that really plays an impact. I even read into that with the impact of adoption with like Microsoft Dynamics and Power Apps, with the users. So if something doesn't just grab them when they land on a screen of my expectations, it just kind of turns them off almost. But and it's almost due to this constant pull in all directions with these the social media, and it's tough even now with the younger generation coming along, that's what they've grown up in.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting though, when you can switch off. It's almost like yeah, just a refreshing. It's almost, I can't even describe how quickly you actually can detach if you really proactively choose to, and then start reaping the benefits of it.
Hmm. Yeah, it's funny. It's funny because I grew up, pre-internet, and it's funny when I tell my kids that they ask, "What did you do when you were a kid?" I was like, "Well, there was not really much to choose from. You either go out inside and play, read books. Didn't have that many channels compared to nowadays on TV, so you had to use your imagination a lot more. I feel reflecting back when I was younger, and your mind was more open to just all kinds of things versus being pulled now, I think, in all different directions is what it seems like. So
Yeah, so true, so true. Yeah. If you look at 2019 in review, what were the kind of big things that were on your radar that was your focus point when it comes to Microsoft business applications?
I think for me, it was a transitional period for not only myself, but I've seen it a lot in the community, from people trying to absorb that Dynamics 365, quote unquote, the traditional CRM, is not what it used to be. With this underlying Power Platform and the rise of this citizen developers and developing these what I'll call boutique apps with Canvas apps. I mean, they could still get complex, but fitting that niche need for those teams, that transition, I think, is rose up in 2019 more and more as the breadth of it became more well known. Not only through the different conferences over 2019, but I think just the people adopting everyday use of it for their own purposes. Actually was reading up on, you may have heard of Mr. Dang, his use of Canvas apps within the classroom with students. I found that an interesting journey of just taking something that, I want to make this environment better with the students I work with, and what tool could I use? And him landing on Power Apps was a neat journey to see, and the interaction of kids with how they learned using a tool like that. I mean, so from all different aspects, I think the growth over 2019 really rose up and sparked my interest more to keep learning. I've been a lifelong learner, and this just added to that. So I think that's what really caught my attention over the 2019.
Mm-mm. So you obviously became an MVP through that year as well. Tell me, how did that come about?
Well, I actually had an interest in it probably a couple of years ago. I think this was before they changed up the model of current MVP or Microsoft person, nominating you. So I was doing a self-nomination, but I guess at the time I just didn't have enough connections or people kind of encouraging me to do this. So I just took a step back and thought, well, I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. Staying involved in the community the best I can. I like to write blogs, typically how-tos to get people engaged with, hey, I think I can do this myself, type of approach. And just put that out there, hoping people, and then self-promotion, so to speak, on LinkedIn or Twitter. And along the way, speaking at like Summit Conference, the User Group Community Summit Conference, has helped as well to get in front of an audience to help them with either that. I almost like to say it's something you can walk away knowing I could do this when I get back into the office type of feel. And that really helped me to see a light bulb go off in people to say, oh, I think I can do that, or I didn't know that about this particular application. So that was sort of a long journey coming. And then, so as my connections grew, I just started reaching out to folks like, what's involved in becoming an MVP. And so they helped me gather all the things together, and I pulled all my resources together that I had been contributing over the years. And that really helped to put together sort of a library or a catalog of things that I have been doing. And so the surprise came, the latter part of last year, and with the email, and it was just, you're ecstatic and kind of overwhelmed, and then you feel like that imposter syndrome kind of kicks in, like I think which has become it's a phrase that's been, I've seen a rise of that in 2019 as well. I think it's just with people kind of with that self-doubt of like, well, I'm here now, but what does that mean? So, but I think everybody's journey is unique, and everybody has a story to tell with their approach of how they became an MVP. And then also our collective knowledge contributing to the community, I think is a great benefit in the fact that, I'm, like I said, I'm still a lifelong learner. So I'm still learning from not only other MVPs, but other just great contributors that are out there. and that's helped me continue this journey since a couple short months here of being an MVP. And well, the other encouragement is seeing other MVPs and bloggers out there with ideas and thoughts and posts. That's like, if they can keep doing that, I can keep doing this journey. Sometimes you feel like, can I keep doing this? Is it going to be a good payoff in the long run, or do I have time to do it? But understanding what the bigger goal is what's really driving me to keep producing content or keep helping others with just simple answers on the community posts out on Microsoft Community.
So a couple of things there which I find intriguing is the one around you blogging. Tell me, what's your system like? How do you create, or what do you see as your standard when creating a blog post?
For me, it sometimes comes along in the way of a need that a customer has had, and a solution that I've come up with to help serve that need, or an issue that they faced that they didn't know how to get around, and we work together, collaborate together with the customer to say, okay, what's the issue? What are you facing? And let's see what's the best outcome and solution. Or other times it's the awareness factor. Sometimes the customer is not even aware that there's either a setting or another application available, like Power Automate, that could simplify what they're currently doing. So introducing information and tools to a customer sometimes sparks like, oh, well, I didn't even know that was available. And that becomes just the foundation of a blog topic. Sometimes I get a little more complex. Sometimes I ratchet it back and keep it kind of simplistic. But that usually is what my spark comes from. Other times it's just spark sometimes comes from answering questions out on the community forum, Microsoft Community. Somebody will pose like, hey, I'm trying to do this and I'm running into this blocker and I don't know how to get around it. And then I'll go, let me see if I can figure this out. And then below and behold, something comes up and I'm like, hey, try this. And it works for them. So that becomes sort of a catalyst for creating the blog content. And then my format is I typically like to have obviously the topic, but the content of text along with screenshots I find very helpful. So people can follow along as far as if they're trying to set something up or implement this in their systems, they can follow along and know, oh, I can click this, or hey, watch out for this, or there's sometimes you may need to be aware of these things. So I try to include some little tidbits of information that can sometimes be a blocker as you're setting it up, and or be aware of certain things. I find that just my style or approach with blogging.
Yeah, awesome. So one of the questions I get a lot from people is, I don't know what to write on. I want to blog, but I don't have topics and stuff. And you've talked there about, you from your customer interactions, you find topic ideas from reading forums. Do you ever get to do you maintain a list of ideas, or is it always, whatever floats your boat that week type thing that you jump on that topic and do? How do you maintain that list of ideas and topics?
Yeah, I try to stay organized with a list, but that doesn't always pan out because sometimes when I get around to time to writing the blog, something's already changed with the available options based on that topic. So a good example is like in Power Automate, with the connectors back to Common Data Service or CDS, that there's been different connectors that have come up since the introduction of, when it was Microsoft Flow and transitioned to Power Automate. There was the different connectors. You first start off with a Dynamics 365 connector, and then now you have the Common Data Service connector, and then there's a third one with a Common Data Service Current Environment connector, which you create through a solution. So sometimes when that pops up as a topic, I'm like, I maybe can start about here's how to use a Dynamics 365 connector. Well, that's now transition to these CDS connectors. So usually when I get around to that topic, you know, things in this arena change so rapidly that sometimes it's really something that came up that week or just the week prior, and then the next week I'll turn around and write something about it to try to keep it fresh as I can. Because sometimes if you build a backlog, you get to some item and it's like, well, that's no longer relevant.
Do you have any kind of minimum word links that you try to write to? What do you consider, or do you just write till you really like I've nailed, I've delivered what I set out to do on this post?
It's usually delivered as what I set out to do. I usually don't have a minimum word length on that. I just try to make sure I'm thorough enough to where it covers all the relevant areas or topics or subtopics, I should say, underneath the main topic. And if it's relevant to maybe a screenshot that I'm showing or steps you're walking through, to make sure nothing's missed. Because I find that very helpful. If I were to read a blog, I read a lot of blogs, but if I were to read a blog or a forum post or something and somebody said, oh, this is out here now and just click this link. Well, I'll click the link and go follow the blog and can I do this? And I'll try it and give it a go. But if I run into a step, I'm like, well, feels like there's something left out here. I wouldn't want that to be felt by somebody trying to follow a post I had. And if they did, just let me know. Communicate with me, and I'll be glad to edit and update. But that's usually my flow of blogged postings.
Yeah. So how many posts do you reckon you're getting out a month, roundabout, on average?
I try to get 2 or 3, anywhere from 2 or 3 on average, sometimes up to 5 I've done in a month. I post in different areas and different sites, just depending. I have my own blog site. I post on under like CRM software blog site or out on the Microsoft Community Forum site. So I have different places I blog and post things on. So I think my goal this year is to try to be more consistent with where I post and how I post. So it's I'm more cross-posting and or linking back to in a better cohesive fashion with getting myself more promoted out there on social media and under certain topics.
Yeah. What's the best bit of feedback you've ever received on a post?
On a couple of them, it's actually been like kudos, like thank you for posting this. I had a couple of comments where folks were like, I can't believe somebody would actually post this level of content on a blog post. It's like giving away, almost like a free consultation on under a certain topic, because like I said, I try to be thorough. And so that's some of the good feedback I've received that honestly feeds back into that loop of, okay, I can keep doing this to push out the next. It's that, feeding it into yourself to know I can, and an encouragement in a way that I can keep doing this because I know I'm impacting the community. And, random folks will stumble across a post and it'll help them out. And I think that's the beauty of all these different sites you can post across and impacting these different consumers, because sometimes they're not aware of certain sites. So when you post across multiple sites, it helps cast the net wider. In other words.
Yeah, makes sense. Aaron, that's been brilliant. So final question before I jump to some quick fire questions, put you on the spot. What's been the best thing about becoming an MVP?
For me, thus far, sort of a newbie in the realm here, is connecting with other MVPs. I have been MVPs for quite a while, several years, in fact, some of them. Just kind of absorbing through them, almost like the osmosis effect, absorbing their knowledge through what they cast off, almost of little tidbits here and there, or things just like, I never thought of it that way. So that's really helped with so far, just absorbing, and I still try to contribute as much as I can through MVP channels, but that's been a huge help so far.
I like it. I like it. Okay, you ready for some quick fire questions?
All right, I'm going to try my best.
Now, these are just totally random. They're, about life in general. Some are deep, some are shallow, some are disrespectful. But let's give it a crack.
Okay.
Okay, here we go. What's a skill you learned when you were younger that you still use today?
Well, that's a good one. When I was younger, something that was instilled in me was to, with that learner mentality, is that you never know what you learn in one area can be applicable to another area. So that's really helped me a lot, to where it's even not in what I'll call your technical skills, but those interpersonal skills has really helped out. So
very good, very good. Would you rather always have gas, or always have bad breath?
Probably, at least with bad breath, you have something to temporarily alleviate with gum or mints or something.
Awesome. If you could write a book, what would it be about?
I've always had in mind, if I ever did want to write a book, it'd probably be a fiction book. I'm a fan of action adventure type books that kind of take you to a sort of another plane of existence, so to speak, outside our regular world. But some action adventure book with some undercurrents of suspense, mystery, intrigue in there. Yeah.
What's the most embarrassing thing that's happened to you during a date?
Oh, gosh. Well, my dating days that's been long ago. I've been almost married 20 years now. So I have to say, oh gosh, that's a toughie. I think it was the fact of just being naive through the whole thing, not knowing what to expect. And then, am I going to say the wrong thing or embarrass my date, with just something nonsensical? But yeah, I think it was the most embarrassing thing. I really can't say. Maybe it's the bad breath or gas scenario.
Oh, good. Oh, good. In what way do you feel your childhood was happier than other people's?
I have to say that probably just where I grew up has kind of impacted me. I've always grown up in this region, and I just felt myself blessed to have grown up here. As far as, like I said, the community and the family that I've obviously was born into, and the heritage that was passed down. I always I think it's enriching to my life. My wife and I actually did the ancestry type digging, ancestry.com thing a couple of years back, and it was interesting to find out the heritage you have from the folks that came before, that sort of laid the groundwork to become part of your ancestors and family that now led to who you are. So I think that's a great impact on me.
Excellent. Have you been told you look like someone famous? And if so, who is it?
No, I've never had that fortunate or unfortunate opportunity, but no. Nope, it's never occurred.
Awesome. Okay, Aaron, it's been great to have you on the show. Tell me if people want to get in touch with you or look at your blog, where do you recommend they go find you online?
Sure. They can find me on Twitter. I'm hanging on Twitter quite a bit, and on LinkedIn. My Twitter handle is at @AMattB, AMATTB. LinkedIn. Just search for Aaron Back, Microsoft MVP, and you'll find me. And then as far as my website, or blog site, I should say, is Dynamics Backpage. I'm on WordPress, so dynamicsbackpage.wordpress.com. You can find me out there. And I'm also in the Dynamics user group, or user community, Microsoft community. I'm under Powerback out there, just playing off my last name. So that's where you find me, under that handle there.
Hey, thanks for listening. Have you heard about the 90-Day Mentoring Challenge? It's free mentoring that I run for a period of 90 days each year. More than 200 people enrolled in 2020. I'll open up registration for 2021 in October later this year. For more information, check out nz365guy.com/90daymc. That's 90daymc. Full show notes can be found at nz365guy.com/175. See you next time.